Hello light workers, how are you? Welcome to Friday. Today we're talking about perceptions and we're also talking about cults. Be careful with that word. I'll see you in the next bit. So, local news, and not only local news, but even wider news. There is a big change happening. I don't know if you are seeing it. And that is that the media, the horrible media, is starting to change its narrative. It's starting to talk openly about the big holes in the COVID narrative. Okay? Now, because I live in Spain, I'm hearing what's happening here, and also I'm in touch with the UK and with the US, and now we're in touch with the whole world. But what I'm also in touch with are the people who live in those places. For example, my mum lives in the UK, and my mother-in-law lives here in Spain. And I've had 2 conversations with them, and both of them are starting to express doubts about what's going on, that things aren't falling into place, things aren't matching up. And I know that's because they're able to think that way because they've been given permission by the media, because the media is changing its narrative. Quite why that's the case, I mean, never trust the media, don't trust it. So when it's changed its narrative and it looks like it's helping us, then we have to ask why. What we know is that it's not because they feel sorry for the people who say that this is all a farce. It's not about that. They're not doing us any favours. But it is for something important. Obviously, it looks like the narrative is having to be drawn back. We know that the AZ one has now been banned in 17 countries, or at least put on hold. That people are being extremely damaged by it, and by all the others as well. And so there's something happening. And I say it's a good thing. It's good that people are becoming more aware of it and that it's starting to come out in the media. The motivation behind it, this is my thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are. But my thoughts are this, that the baddies have the patience of Job. All right, I don't want to bring Job into this because he was a good man, wasn't he? And they're not. But they have a lot of patience. They've been planning this for a long time, centuries, if not more. Okay, they've got infinite patience. Now, what's happened is, I think that what's happened is that they have seen the awakening happening. Okay, that wasn't in the plan. The awakening, it wasn't in the plan. Understand this. Their plan was very much to roll this out and everyone was going to be okay with it. You can read it in the Rothschild, one of their imaginary plans. Word by word, step by step, they roll out exactly what they've done now with everything, except at the end they say, and everybody learned to accept it and everyone was okay with it. Right, and that's the only failure in their entire plan, was that everything worked up to this point, but no, not everybody's okay with it. And it isn't happening the way that they thought it was going to happen. Because of the Great Awakening, they have had to, they're playing a game of poker, all right? They have played too many cards too quickly. This is my feeling. They played cards too quickly. Now, it worked for a bit, but even the sleepers are now so absolutely pissed off. Okay? There are people who haven't seen their relatives in a year, who haven't seen the parents in a year. These people are pissed off. And so the narrative isn't holding together. Add to that the Great Awakening. Add to that the media suppression, that as they've suppressed it here, went boom, and suddenly information is everywhere. Add to that all of the mess that happened in the USA with the elections and everything. And so what's happened is I think they're having to pull back a little bit. Probably with the plan of, hey, we'll pull back a little bit and then we'll bring it back on later on when everyone's calmed down. Okay? The issue is, there is no calming down, because the Great Awakening is a one-way journey. As we've said many times before, there is no going back to sleep. And so the longer the wait, the worse it's going to be for them, because more people are going to be awakened. And the longer they leave it, they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, by the fingernails at the moment. So I think they're going into damage limitation. That's just my gut feel. I would be interested to know what you think. Why do you think they're starting to allow the media to talk about this when before it was censored? So that's interesting. I mean, fascinating times, man. These are fascinating times. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the whole the way that humankind has responded to this. And I'm talking about the people who believe the narrative. This has gone on for a year now. At the beginning, people were truly scared. People were scared. But what happens is, because we normalize things, the fear cannot be maintained. Even though they've tried to do that by bringing, a new strain. But look, it's really matterless to people now. The numbers mean nothing to people now. The numbers of deaths and the numbers of cases, it means nothing. It has no impact anymore because we've normalized it. Okay? So why is it then, if people aren't frightened, which they're clearly not, why is it that they continue to put the masks on? And why is it that they are getting this? Obviously not now, because it's been suspended in many places. But why is it? Why is it that they are sticking to the rules and not seeing the relatives, not doing what a body ought to do? Well, I've lived that before when I was in a cult and I was subject to cult programming. And I lived amongst the highest level of hypocrisy that you could possibly live amongst. Cults create hypocrisy. Cults are hypocritical. And what I mean by that is that what they do in a cult is they set the standards so high, and this stands for all religions, but I'm going to talk about religions that are classed as cults, like the Jehovah's Witness organization, that I class as a cult. Okay? Maybe they don't. They set the standards so high that nobody can achieve them. Not anybody. Jesus Christ wouldn't be able to live by the standards of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, what that does is that creates this need to hide behind a facade. Okay? This is what cults do. So what happens is you see cult members and you think, wow, what good people they are. The la 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 dee, yeah. You look behind that and they are dreadful. They live worse lives than normal people. But they hide it. They have to hide it. So behind this facade, they are absolute hypocrites. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They can't help it. They're human. And not only that, they are distorted. And so they become hypocritical and they hide it. And they hate themselves for it. They know that they do it. But that's what they've got to do. So, what we've got in our society now is exactly the same. It's a cult. The standards, the restrictions of the COVID are so high that nobody can keep them. Nobody wants to keep them. Okay? The only time that they do, when they do this, and this is in public, they do this, is because what they are scared of is what people think of them. Okay? They are only interested in the opinion of the rest of the cult members. That's what keeps them in control. And the baddies know this. They know that. I mean, yeah, they like to crank the fear up, but they're fine with peer pressure. They're fine with the fact of that everybody wants to do what's called virtue signaling, which is, look how good of a person I am. And Literally, I saw a video today of a man who went into a store with a megaphone, shouting at people, saying that they're being controlled, without a mask clearly. And a woman said, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?" He said, "Why are you wearing a mask?" And she said, "Because I'm a good person. Not because I'm frightened, not because I don't want to spread a disease. No, because I'm a good person." And that is where they've got people. Because people want to be good. They want to be perceived as good by their fellow humans, by their fellow cult members. And that's why everybody in Spain is walking around with a mask on. Not because they're frightened. They're not frightened anymore. How do I know that? Because I see the behaviour of my immediate family who believe. They believe the narrative. And yet, from the beginning, we've got together, they come to see us, they hug my children, they kiss them, we kiss one another when we say hello, we hug, we spend time together, we go places. They cross the boundaries when they're not supposed to cross them. They couldn't give a shit. They're not frightened. But when they go out, they put masks on. When they go into a bar, they wear the mask. And if I am with them and I'm not wearing a mask, they are incredibly uncomfortable. Incredibly uncomfortable. They've said to me, "Please put your mask on. Just put your mask on." Okay? That's because they're in a cult. Society is a cult. And that's how they control them. And of course, we've woken up to the cult. We are no longer part of the cult. But please be careful not to get into another cult. All right? Because it's very, very classic that we rebound out of one cult and we get into another cult. All right? The awakened world also has cults that you can get involved with. And how do you know you're in a cult? The cult is this. If you don't believe what I believe, you are a bad person. That's when you know you're in a cult. Right? When you judge other people based on your beliefs, you are in a cult. So ask yourself that question. Okay, really, really look within yourself and say, am I judging other people because they don't believe what I believe? All right, so be very careful with that. Now, let me tell you a couple of stories. A man goes for an interview, and he goes into the interview, and the person who's interviewing him says, "Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and obviously the answer to this question dictates whether you get the job or not." And the guy said, "Okay, I'm ready." He said, "Right, so what is 2 plus 2? And the guy said, "Well, it's 4. I went, "Thank you very much. If you just wait in the waiting room, we'll let you know." The next guy comes in and he says to him, "Okay, I'm going to ask you, after talking to him, I'm going to ask you a question. The answer to this dictates whether you get the job or not." And the guy said, "Right, fine." And he said, "So what is 2 plus 2? And the guy said, "Whatever the boss says it is." And he says, "You've got the job." Okay? That is where we are. That is where we are. That is where the cult is. Whatever the boss says. Not about what the truth is or what you know. It's whatever the boss says. Okay? That's where we are. Now, this next thing is not a story, but I want you to, I'm going to put something up on the screen, and it's a little sentence, okay? And your job, now if you've seen this, fair enough. If you haven't seen this, you're going to find it very interesting. Your job is to look at this sentence, and I'm only going to give you 15 seconds. Right? You've only got 15 seconds. I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and you've got to count the number of F's in the sentence. The the F. You've got to count the number of F's. Okay? So off we go. Okay, so how many F's did you see in the sentence? Now, I'll tell you a story before I tell you the answer. I was on a course a lot of years ago. I was young and cocky, And I was on a course, and the guy who was running the course did this. He put the sentence up for us, and he said, count the number of Fs. So we all looked at the sentence and we all counted. Now, in the group there were about 15 or 20 of us, okay? And we all said, there are 3 Fs in that sentence. And the guy said, so everyone put their hand up who sees 3 Fs. Well, 19 people put their hand up. And he said, put your hand up if you see a different number. And one boy, put his hand up. And he said, I see 5. And you know, it impacted me. It impacted me. I still remember exactly what happened. Everybody laughed at him. And you know, I laughed at him. I laughed at him. And I thought, he's off his rocker. What the hell is he seeing? And you know, it makes me realize how easily tricked we are, how easily fooled we are, how very limited we are in our perceptions. And it also makes me realize how weak-minded we are, that if anybody says something against the group narrative, the very first reaction that we have is to laugh at them, is to make fun of them. And he was embarrassed and he went red. And he said, but I give him his credit, he said, I see 5. I see 5. And everyone's going, ha, 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 ha. And then the guy who was running the course said, that's right, you see 5 because there are 5. Okay? And obviously, if you look at the sentence again, the 2 Fs that people don't tend to see are in the word of, because we don't pronounce it as an F. And so we read the word as a 1 sound. And so we don't see the Fs. Okay? So there were 5, not 3. But most people see 3. I saw 3. And I'm not proud. I'm not bothered that I saw 3. I mean, you know, there are tons and tons of tests you can do where you don't see everything. But I was bothered by my reaction, the ease at which I laughed at him, because he said something different to what I said and what the group said. You see, I went with the group. Everybody said 3. I said 3. Ha! We know more than anybody else. And then he said 5 and we laughed at him. We are that one boy who said, I see 5 Fs. That's where we are. Don't expect any other reaction than mocking. The people will mock us because that is the very first reaction that they have had inculcated in them. Oh, what? You're going against our cult. We are a cult. We all believe the same thing. How dare you say something else? You crazy idiot. Okay? So that's why when I receive those reactions from people, I don't take it personally because I did it. I know because I did it. Okay? And so, unfortunately, because of the way that society has created this cult, we all have that potential to laugh at people who don't believe what we believe. And so it's something that we should reflect on. Where in our lives are we intolerant? Where are we mocking because people don't believe our beliefs? Because you know what the truth about beliefs is, there is no truth about beliefs. Okay, beliefs, I thought there were 3 Fs. I was so effing wrong. But I would have put money on it. I would have put money on it. I believed it so much that I was willing to mock somebody because of it. So, be very careful with how we make judgments on what people say based on our perception, because our perception is shit. Okay? It's no better than anybody else's perception. We know shit. Okay? So don't hang your hat on your beliefs and on your perceptions and on what you see. Okay? Because It's too dangerous, and we can hurt people, and we can hurt ourselves because of that. Okay, so let me finish by telling you a story. You may have heard this one. I just love this story. It's a beautiful story, and I remember who taught me it and where I was. I was in Morocco when somebody told me this story. But basically, one day someone was talking to their guardian angel, and they said, "Where are you, guardian angel? Why aren't you with me? Why do I feel so alone? Why don't you come and help me?" And he felt a tap on his shoulder, and he looked, and there was his guardian angel next to him. And the guardian angel said, "But don't you know, I've always been with you. I've always been with you. Look behind and you'll see." So the guy turned around, and what he saw were 2 sets of footprints behind him. And the guardian angel said, "Look, you see, I've always been with you." And as he looked back, he saw that the 2 sets of footprints went off into the distance, because the guardian angel had always been walking beside him. But as he looked, he saw one part where there was only 1 set of footprints. And he said, "But what about that bit? You left me there." And the guardian angel said, No, that was when I had to carry you." We're never alone. We are never alone, even when we feel very lonely. Trust that there are beings there that are helping us, that are looking out for us, that are taking care of us, always. So, have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.